class. My name is Kelsey Beck, and this is my discussion relative to South Korea. First off, this one's kind of unique to a lot of poor countries out there. The issues are different, so let me go over some of them. First off, public spending is low, so this is because this is just a kind of little basis to the problems there. The economy is good from selling outside, exporting. They have a lot of innovations in technology, things like that. But the public spending, so what people actually spend in the economy in the country, it is not so good because workers a lot of times are hired on temporary contracts with low wages and not so good benefits. So that's kind of an area maybe for improvement because the benefits provided to the workers at the time is not so good. So they might need a little more services and stuff to boost their income, boost their benefits, so they can get care they need and they can stimulate the economy even further. Also, military service is required in South Korea, which gives very little pay. So they give them free housing, free food, stuff like that. But like the actual pay that they receive is low, so they don't really have a lot to save. So that's kind of an opportunity there to maybe increase that. In case they're like living below their means, a lot of people in the military, they have problems afterwards because PTSD and such like that, and then they didn't make much money in the military, thus like giving more room for improvement there. So with that being said, the relative poverty rate is 15%, which seems high. In the US, it's about 11.8%. Though the relative poverty rate is not same as absolute poverty. It means that a lot of the people, they do have a low income compared to others living in the country. This is because of there is a high income gap between the rich and the poor. So there's a huge gap there. So the poor, there is room for improvement there for the poverty rates, but the main people who do need assistance in South Korea and the main people affected by poverty are the elderly. The number of people 65 or older with disabilities is 3 times the international average, sorry. So the international average, it's 3 times higher, meaning that those who need assistance, that's quite significant. And this is caused by a low birth rate in the country. So in the 1960s, after the baby boom, they came up with an antenatal policy, which pretty much they wanted to lower the population because of overcrowding and all that. So they provided a lot of services to do with birth control, vasectomies, etc., which greatly lowered the birth rate, which in turn has lowered the fertility rate in South Korea. And in that case, a lot of women in particular, pursued a higher quality of life versus having children. So this was a very common trend, and the birth rate is still very low in South Korea. Why is this a problem? So first off, this causes school closures and school mergers, which creates less educational opportunities for the children that there are, and less quality of education. So they're making the schools bigger and putting them together, so there's bigger class sizes for the teachers. Also, this also has to do with the current elderly, which is, I feel like, what with my research was the biggest issue that I saw, or one of the biggest issues. I can't possibly cover them all, but this was a major one that I decided to kind of focus on. The low birth rate makes it so, because of the baby boom, there is an increased elderly population with a much lower younger population to care for them. So they're not getting educated as much to care for the people who need it because of the schools and education there. And then there are just not as many people to care for the growing elderly population, where there will be less services and caretakers for them. So that's a big focus that South Korea needs to kind of look at in the human services positions. So more caseworkers and social workers to help the elderly get the services they need. Like I said, there's a lot more that I could have covered, but I found that very interesting that actually it doesn't seem like there's a massive problem with people being poor, like that their economy is growing. There is some money to be made, but the elderly is really what we're looking at, even less for child welfare, because there just aren't a lot of children being born. Well, thank you for listening. Glad you tuned in to another video presentation for me, and I look forward to hearing from you guys. Thank you.